The lobby smelled of fresh lilies and imported perfume, a world far removed from the reality of Neka's life. She clutched the stack of freshly ironed suits like her life depended on it, because in a way it did. One wrong move and Madame Grace, the laundry supervisor, would cut her wages again. And with rent due and no family to run to, every naira mattered. The elevator chimed open at the penthouse level. Neka's heart pounded. She had never been this high, literally or socially. The carpet here was so soft it felt like stepping on clouds. Walls shimmered with gold accents, and expensive art pieces lined the corridor. Her reflection in a massive glass panel mocked her. Plain brown uniform, worn-out sandals, hair tied back in a scarf. She took a deep breath and approached Suite 901, balancing the suits in her arms. She knocked lightly. No answer. She hesitated, then pushed the door open. The room was a different universe. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealing Lagos Island glittering under the night sky. A bottle of champagne sat chilling in a silver bucket, soft jazz floating from unseen speakers. Neka tiptoed in, praying not to break anything that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. Then it happened. She turned the corner, and collided into a wall of muscle. The suits flew. So did the champagne glass in his hand. A cascade of golden bubbles spilled across the white silk shirt of the man standing before her. "Oh my God!" Neka gasped, scrambling to grab tissues. "I'm so sorry, sir, I didn't see." Her words died on her tongue when she looked up. Benedict. She knew his face from newspapers and social media. Billionaire. Theo. King of mergers and scandals. Up close, he was more dangerous. Tall, broad shoulders under the ruined silk, skin like polished ebony, jaw sharp enough to cut glass. His eyes, dark, commanding, pinned her in place. "Do you know what this shirt costs?" His voice was smooth, deep, with an edge that made her knees weak. I can wash it," she stammered, heat crawling up her neck. He smirked, slow and lethal, like a predator who just found an interesting prey. "You think soap and water can fix this?" He stepped closer and the air thickened. "Tell me, little laundry girl, what are you willing to do to make it up to me?" Neka froze, her heart thundering in her chest. This was trouble. The kind that came with shiny floors and broken souls. I'll do anything," she whispered before she could stop herself. His gaze flickered with something dark and amused. He leaned in, close enough for her to smell expensive cologne and danger. "Anything." The word hung in the air, heavy as sin. And that was the moment Neka realized. Tonight her life was about to change forever. Neka's breath came in shallow bursts as she stood frozen in the suite's opulent silence. Obinna didn't look away. His gaze was a storm, sharp and unyielding, making her feel stripped bare in her drab uniform. He reached for a pristine white handkerchief from the marble counter and dabbed his chest lazily, the movement deliberate, almost mocking. "You've ruined a shirt worth more than your yearly salary," he said smoothly, as though commenting on the weather. Neka's chest tightened. "Please, sir. Pay. I'll work extra shifts." Obinna chuckled, a low sound that slid down her spine like silk. "Pay." He stepped closer, each stride slow and predatory. "Do you know how many shifts you'd have to work to cover this? A lifetime wouldn't be enough." She swallowed hard. "Then tell me what to do." His eyes darkened with intrigue, a predator savoring the scent of a cornered deer. He circled her slowly, his cologne, a mix of oud and power, clouding her senses. When he stopped in front of her, his voice dropped, intimate, dangerous. "Be my date," he said simply. The words crashed into her like a wave. "Your date." Obinna's lips curved into a smile that wasn't really a smile. It was a promise and a threat. "There's a gala tomorrow night. Everyone who matters will be there. Politicians. Royalty. My fiancé." His tone lingered mockingly on that last word. Neka's stomach twisted. "I don't understand. Why me?" "Because," he said, tilting her chin up with a finger so gently it burned. "You're real. Fresh. Different. They're all plastic dolls in designer dresses. But you. His eyes traveled down her frame, slow and unapologetic. You're fire pretending to be ash. She shivered, not from fear, but from something darker, an ache she didn't want to name. And if I refuse? Obina's smile turned razor-sharp. Then I'll make one call, and by morning you'll be out on the streets with nothing. The room seemed to tilt. She hated him. She hated how his voice caressed and cut at the same time. But the thought of sleeping on cold concrete again, the humiliation, the hunger, burned through her pride like acid. Why me? She whispered again, but this time softer. Obina leaned in, his lips grazing her ear as he murmured, "Because I can't stop thinking about what else these clumsy hands could ruin." Her breath caught. "One night," he said, stepping back, his gaze locking on hers like a loaded gun. "We're something unforgettable. Midnight. I'll send a car." And just like that, he turned away, dismissing her as if the deal was sealed. Nneka stumbled out of the suite, heart pounding so loud she barely heard the elevator ding. One night. Just one night. But deep down she knew. Men like Obina never stop at one night. The night air was heavy, thick with the humid scent of rain, but Nneka's palms were sweating for a different reason. She stood in front of the cracked mirror in her one-room apartment, holding up the only thing that resembled a dress, a faded ochre gown with frayed edges. It mocked her. This wasn't unforgettable. This was forgettable at best. Her chest tightened as she imagined walking into that glittering ballroom in this rag. She could already hear the laughter, see the sneers. Obina's words echoed in her mind. Wear something unforgettable. How? On what money? She had less than 5,000 naira to her name, and half of that was for food. The knock on her door startled her. She swung it open to find Ngozi, her neighbor and only friend in the building, leaning against the doorframe with a mischievous grin and a garment bag slung over her shoulder. "I heard you got yourself a sponsor," Ngozi teased, eyes twinkling. "Word travels fast, babe." "It's not like that," Nneka shot back, though heat crept up her neck. I need a favor." Ngozi walked in without waiting for permission, tossing the bag onto the bed. "Lucky for you, your girl's got connections. Remember that sugar auntie I told you about? She dumped this dress last month. Said it made her look cheap." She unzipped the bag with a flourish. Nneka's breath caught. The dress was blood-red satin, clinging and sinful, with a thigh-high slit and a plunging neckline that dared anyone to look away. It was a dress that belonged in Obina's world, a dress that could rewrite a woman's destiny in one night. "Ngozi, I can't wear this," Nneka whispered, fingers trembling as they grazed the fabric. "Can't or won't." Ngozi arched a brow. "Babe, if this man is as rich and fine as they say, you better show him what poverty has been hiding." Hours later, the black SUV purred to a stop outside her building. Nneka stepped out in heels she could barely walk in, the red dress hugging every secret curve of her body. Her hair, coiled and pinned, gleamed under the dim streetlight. For once, she didn't look like the girl who scrubbed stains out of sheets for a living. She looked like danger. The driver opened the door to reveal Obina already inside, draped in an immaculate black tuxedo. His eyes lifted from his phone and froze. For the first time, the unshakable man looked stunned. Slowly, his lips curved into that wicked smile that had ruined her peace since yesterday. "Now that," he murmured, voice husky, "is unforgettable." Their eyes locked, a current sparking in the space between them, thick and undeniable. She slid into the leather seat, her bare thigh brushing his. The scent of his cologne wrapped around her like a trap. As the car glided through the glittering city toward the gala, Obina leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. "One night, Nneka," he whispered. "That's all it takes to change everything." Her pulse thundered. She wasn't sure if it was fear, or the thrill of stepping into a world where she didn't belong. The Adeniran Grand Hotel glittered like a palace of glass and light, its golden chandeliers casting a soft glow over Lagos elite. The air was thick with the scent of designer perfumes, clinking champagne glasses, and quiet whispers, the language of wealth and secrets. Nneka stepped out of the car on trembling legs, her red satin gown catching every flicker of light like liquid fire. Heads turned instantly. Conversations faltered. She felt their eyes crawl over her, sizing her up, searching for the family name or title they knew didn't exist. Obinna offered his arm with a casual elegance that screamed power. His black tuxedo framed a body sculpted by privilege and discipline, his wrist glinting with a watch that could pay her rent for 10 years. "Ready?" he asked, his voice low, smooth, danger wrapped in velvet. Nneka swallowed hard, looping her arm through his. "Do I have a choice?" His lips curved in a way that promised trouble. "Not tonight." As they entered the ballroom, the music shifted, soft jazz melting into a rhythmic high-life tune. The room bloomed with laughter and opulence. Politicians with heavy bellies, women in diamonds so bright they rivaled the chandeliers, and young men with sharp smiles masking sharper intentions. "Obinna!" A voice cut through the hum. A tall, statuesque woman glided toward them, her emerald gown hugging curves that belonged in magazines. Her smile was all teeth, her eyes, daggers. "Amarachi," Obinna greeted coolly, kissing the air beside her cheek. "You look predictable." Her gaze slid to Nneka, lingering on the thigh-high slit, the bare shoulders, the defiant chin. "And who," she said sweetly, "is this?" "My date," Obinna replied, his arm tightening around Nneka's waist, pulling her closer as if to stake a claim. The air crackled. Amarachi's eyes sharpened, but her smile didn't waver. "Enjoy the party," she purred before drifting away, her perfume lingering like a warning. Nneka exhaled slowly, her heart thundering. "Who was that?" "My fiancé," Obinna said casually, sipping champagne as if he hadn't just dropped a grenade between them. Her stomach twisted. "Fiancé," she hissed under her breath. "Relax," he murmured, leaning in so close his lips grazed her ear, sending a shiver down her spine. "Tonight, you're the only woman I see." Before she could respond, the band shifted to a slow, sensual tune. Obinna took her hand without asking and led her to the dance floor. The world melted into music and heat as his hand slid to the small of her back, pulling her flush against him. His body was solid, warm, his breath fanning her cheek as they moved in perfect rhythm. She felt the stares, the jealousy, the whispered questions, but in that moment it didn't matter. "Tell me," Obinna murmured, his lips brushing her temple, "do you always tremble this much when a man touches you?" Nneka's breath hitched. "Only when the man is dangerous." He chuckled, low and dark, his thumb stroking the curve of her hip. "Then maybe you should run, little fire." His gaze locked with hers, and for a moment the mask slipped, revealing hunger, raw and consuming. But before she could answer, a camera flashed. Then another. The whispers grew louder, the circle around them tighter. And from across the room, Amarachi watched with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Tonight had just become a war. The ballroom pulsed with laughter and music, but Nneka felt like she was drowning. Every camera flash was a blade, slicing through the fragile shield of confidence she'd stitched together for tonight. The whispers were louder now, coiling around her like smoke. "Who is she? Where did he find her?" "I need some air," she muttered. Obinna's hand caught hers before she could move. His grip was firm, commanding. "Then let's go together," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. He led her through a set of glass doors onto a sprawling balcony that overlooked the glittering Lagos skyline. The city stretched endlessly, lights shimmering like fallen stars. The night air was cool, sharp, a stark contrast to the fever in Nneka's blood. "Better?" Obinna asked, stepping behind her so close that his chest brushed her back. His voice was soft now, almost tender, but it carried a weight that made her knees weak. Nneka gripped the balcony rail, trying to steady her breath. "Why me?" she asked again, the question burning her throat. "You could have any woman in that room. Why pick the one who irons your sheets?" Obinna's chuckle was dark, low, curling around her like smoke. Because, he said, his fingers grazing the bare skin of her shoulder, you're the only one in that room who doesn't need me to feel important. Her breath caught. His hand slid down slowly, tracing her arm, stopping just above her waist. Her body tensed, every nerve screaming, but not with fear. You should stop, she whispered, though her voice betrayed her, trembling like the hem of her dress. Do you want me to stop? His lips brushed the curve of her ear, each word dripping like molten honey. Nneka turned slightly, her face inches from his cologne flooding her senses. This is wrong, she breathed, though her body betrayed her by leaning closer. Obinna smiled faintly, the kind of smile that promised sin and didn't apologize for it. Everything worth having usually is. And then his mouth was on hers, hot, claiming, tasting of champagne and danger. The world tilted, melted into the press of his lips, the firm grip of his hand pulling her against him. For one reckless moment, Nneka forgot who she was, forgot the whispers, forgot everything except the man setting her soul on fire. The sound of a sharp click shattered the moment. Camera flash from the shadows. Obinna broke the kiss instantly, his jaw tightening as his eyes scanned the darkness beyond the balcony. Inside. Now. His voice was cold steel, slicing through the heat between them. Nneka's heart hammered as he ushered her back in. Behind them, the flashbulb glow disappeared into the night, leaving only questions, and the first whisper of a trap. The gala was still in full swing when they stepped back inside, but the mood around Obinna had shifted. He wasn't smiling anymore. His jaw was clenched, his phone gripped like a weapon. His eyes, once smoldering, now burned with cold fury. What happened out there? Nneka whispered as they moved toward a quiet corner. Obinna didn't answer. He tapped his phone furiously, then hissed under his breath. Blocked number. They sent it already. Sent what? Nneka's stomach knotted. He turned the screen toward her, and her breath stilled. Photo. Of them. On the balcony. His mouth on hers, her body melting against his. The city lights framing them like lovers in a stolen moment. Someone was watching us, Obinna said, his voice low but lethal. And they're not stupid. They're playing a game. Before Nneka could speak, a familiar voice sliced through the air like a blade dipped in honey. Well, well. They both turned to see Amarachi standing there, emerald gown gleaming like venom. Her smile was soft, almost tender. Too tender. I was wondering why my fiancé disappeared, she said, her eyes sweeping over Nneka like a scalpel. Now I see. Not now, Amarachi, Obinna snapped, slipping into his cold CO tone, the one that made boardrooms tremble. Oh, I think now is perfect, she purred, stepping closer until her perfume clung to the air like poison. Tell me, Obinna, did you forget the press is here? Or maybe you wanted the whole world to see you pawing at the help? Heat rushed to Nneka's cheeks, shame and fury tangling in her chest. She opened her mouth to defend herself, but Amarachi's next words cut like glass. Don't worry, darling, she said, her eyes never leaving Nneka. When I'm done with her, she'll wish she'd never touched what doesn't belong to her. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Then Amarachi turned, her laughter trailing like a knife dragged across silk. Obinna's phone buzzed again. Another message. This time just 4 words. 1 million or viral. Nneka's breath caught. They're blackmailing you. His eyes found hers, dark and burning. They're blackmailing us. He dragged a hand down his face, then suddenly grabbed her wrist. Come with me. Where are we going? Somewhere they can't watch. Minutes later, they were in his private lounge upstairs, the walls lined with books and leather. Obinna poured himself a drink, his movements sharp, controlled. You should go home, he said finally, not looking at her. This isn't your fight. Nneka stared at him, anger rising like fire in her veins. You kissed me, she snapped. In front of your fiancé. In front of the press. And now you want me to disappear. His glass slammed down, the sound slicing through the silence. He turned, closing the distance between them in 2 strides. His hand cupped her jaw, tilting her face up, his voice a growl. You think this was a game for me? One night and done. His thumb brushed her lower lip, sending a shiver through her spine. I can't stop wanting you, Neka. Even if it destroys everything. Before she could breathe, before her mind could scream don't. His mouth was on hers again. Hot, desperate, claiming like a man drowning and dragging her down with him. And this time there were no cameras. No whispers. Just fire meeting fire. And the knowledge that they were both about to burn. Morning sunlight streamed through the curtains of Obina's penthouse, painting the room in gold. Neka sat on the edge of his bed, the red dress pooled around her like spilled wine. Her body still humming from the storm of last night. But reality hit like cold water. She had crossed a line she could never uncross. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Message. From an unknown number. She opened it and froze. Photo attached. It was the balcony kiss again, but this time paired with a caption. 5 hours. 1 million. Or hello, internet. Her chest tightened. She looked toward Obina, asleep on the couch, his tux discarded. His powerful frame softened by sleep. He looked peaceful, untouchable. But she knew the truth now. He was a man standing on the edge of a cliff, and she had dragged him closer to the fall. Before she could think, his phone rang. He stirred, answered, and his face hardened instantly. I said fix it, Kemi, he barked into the phone. Find who's behind this. Now. He ended the call and turned to Neka. They sent it to you too. She nodded, throat dry. Then you understand, he said, his tone low, clipped. This doesn't just ruin me, it ruins you. They'll eat you alive out there. Her voice cracked. So what do we do? Obina paced the room like a caged predator. We pay, he said finally. Then we hunt. But even as he spoke, Neka's phone buzzed again. Another message. This one wasn't about money. It was worse. Leave him. Or the world sees everything. Her blood ran cold. Whoever this was, they didn't just want money. They wanted to tear them apart. Before she could react, the door burst open. Amarachi stood there, flanked by 2 security men. Her emerald eyes blazing like wildfire. Well, she said softly, almost smiling. I didn't expect to find her still here. But then again, gutter rats don't know when to leave. Amarachi, Obina growled, stepping between them. Don't start. Oh, I've already started, she hissed, her voice dripping venom. You think you can humiliate me in front of the entire city and walk away? No, darling. You've made an enemy you can't buy off. Her gaze snapped to Neka, sharp as broken glass. You think this is love? Sweetheart, you're a scandal waiting to happen. And when I'm done, you won't just lose him. You'll lose the little life you have. Obina's voice thundered. Get out. Amarachi smiled, slow and deadly. I will. But I'll leave you with this. She held up her phone, screen glowing with a thumbnail of the balcony kiss. Already uploaded, already counting views. You've got less than an hour, she purred. Tick-tock. She walked out, leaving a silence heavy enough to crush them both. Neka's breath shook. She has the video. Obina, what do we? He turned, grabbing her shoulders. His eyes burning with a desperation that scared her. You trust me. Her heart pounded. I don't know. Then decide, he growled, pulling her closer. Because if you stay, this stops being a fling. Becomes war. And in war, Neka, people bleed. And for the first time, Neka wondered. Had she stepped into a love story? Or a battlefield where love was just another weapon? The city woke up to chaos. By dawn, the video was everywhere, blazing across Instagram, Twitter, and gossip blogs like wildfire. The caption. Billionaire CEO cheats on fiancé with hotel maid. Neka stared at her cracked phone screen as the comments poured in. Who is this girl? Slay Queen of the Year. Poor girl trying to climb the ladder. Her chest tightened until she could barely breathe. She wasn't just trending, she was drowning. The pounding on her door nearly made her scream. She swung it open to find Ngozi, eyes wide, holding a printed screenshot. "Babe, you're finished," she whispered. "Amarachi's people are dragging your name through every mud they can find. They even posted your address." Nneka's blood ran cold. Before she could speak, her phone rang. Obinna's name flashing. She answered with trembling fingers. "Pack your things," his voice thundered, low and commanding. "I'm sending my driver. You're not safe there." Minutes later, Nneka was in his penthouse again. Her whole life stuffed into one nylon bag. Obinna was pacing, suit jacket off, tie hanging loose. His phone glued to his ear. "I don't care what it costs," he barked. "Pull the damn video down. Now." He hung up and turned to her, eyes blazing with a mix of fury and something else, fear. "They're coming for you, Nneka. Amarachi, she's not just angry. She's dangerous." "I didn't ask for this," Nneka whispered, tears blurring her vision. "I never wanted." "I know," he cut in, his voice softening. He stepped closer, cupping her face with both hands, his thumb brushing away a tear. "But I can't lose you. Do you understand? I won't." Her heart cracked open at the rawness in his tone. "Obinna." Before the word left her lips, his mouth was on hers. Fierce, desperate, sealing promises neither of them could keep. For a moment the world fell away. There was no scandal, no blackmail, no war. Just the heat of him, the taste of danger, and a love that felt like fire and ruin all at once. The shrill ring of his phone shattered it. He glanced at the screen, and for the first time Nneka saw fear. Not for his company, but for something deeper. He answered, "Listen." And then his face turned to stone. When he hung up, his voice was a whisper, sharp as a blade. "They have something else." "What?" Nneka asked, dread curling in her gut. "They know," he said slowly, his gaze locking on hers. "What happened to your parents?" Her breath hitched. "What are you talking about?" "They know you're not just some orphan," Obinna murmured, his voice shaking with a truth that burned. "They know your father was the man who ruined mine." The floor tilted beneath her. The words slammed into her chest like bullets. "My father," she choked out. "Yes," Obinna said, his eyes dark with pain and rage. "He was the reason my family lost everything 20 years ago. The reason my mother—" His jaw clenched so tight it looked carved from stone. "This isn't an accident, Nneka. They didn't pick you by chance. They want to destroy me, through you." The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of her heartbeat pounding like war drums. For a long, terrible moment, they just stared at each other. Two people bound by desire, torn apart by blood. And then the door burst open. Amarachi stood there, a smile curling her crimson lips. "Game over," she said softly, holding up a folder thick with secrets. Rain hammered the streets of Lagos like 1,000 tiny drums as Nneka walked away from the penthouse, her red dress clinging to her like a second skin. Every step felt heavier than the last. The storm blurred the lights, but not the ache in her chest. She was leaving behind more than a man. She was leaving behind the first taste of a life that felt like freedom. And fire. Behind her, Obinna stood frozen, watching her silhouette disappear through the glass doors. His empire was crumbling, his engagement shattered, his name dragged through the mud, but none of that mattered compared to the hollow ache she left behind. He had fought hostile takeovers, crushed rivals without mercy, but this, losing her, felt like death. He turned, rage and desperation boiling inside him. Amarachi's smug face haunted his mind, her final words slicing like blades. "Game over. No, darling. This is only the first move." His phone buzzed. A single message from an unknown number. "Round 2 begins soon. She won't be yours when it does." His jaw clenched, fury hardening every muscle. Whoever was behind this wasn't finished, and they were coming for Nneka next. Meanwhile, miles away, Nneka sat in the back of a rickety cab, tears streaking her face as she stared at the city lights melting in the rain. She pulled out her phone and hesitated before opening the message that had been haunting her since morning. "We need to talk. Your father's sins weren't the only secret." Her hands trembled. Her heart raced. A new question clawed at her mind. Who sent this? And what did they know about her that even Obina didn't? The cab slowed at a red light. Neka glanced out and froze. Across the street, under the shadow of an umbrella, stood a figure in a black coat. Watching her. Waiting. The light turned green. Cab moved. But the figure didn't vanish from her mind. As the storm swallowed the city, two hearts bled for each other. Two families' ghosts stirred. And somewhere in the shadows, a war whispered its promise. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning,